Hey guys, welcome back for another Trick Tip Tuesday. And for today's tip, I'm going to be showing you guys how to achieve what seems like a pretty simple task, but using only simple hand tools. So what I'm going to be doing is actually just putting the bend in this piece of, or in another piece of stainless that will duplicate this. So what this is a guard for the air motor on our Proline planishing hammers. So when you look at this, all it is a bent piece of stainless, and it may seem fairly easy, but when you start out with a flat plate like this, so this is laser cut, it's got our mounting holes in it and a hole in the front for the exhaust. When you see that, it may seem like a pretty simple deal to do this. Well, depending on what tools you have in your shop, this isn't always the easiest thing to achieve, and that's because when you're looking at this part, it's a pretty gradual roll all the way around, and there's not a whole lot of space to grab onto in order to do this. So unless you have a press with some type of die set up to be able to press this down, this is too small to really fit in a slip roller, and likely too strong as well, being that this is about 16 gauge stainless, about 50 to 60 thou, just off the top of my head. But and also, how do you bend it from this to this without marring it all up, without scratching it all up, damaging it, that sort of thing? So pretty basic hand tools. So something I've learned over the years of fabricating is that sometimes you have to think as basic as possible in order to achieve something. It's not always about having the biggest, fanciest machine and that sort of thing. So what I do with these is I start with a piece of pipe here. Not 100% sure what size this is, but it doesn't really matter because whatever you're working on is probably going to be different. So with this, I don't even really know 100% what the overall shape is I'm going for as far as the radius and all that. I don't really have that calculated because to me it doesn't matter. All I'm trying to do is make this fit the machine specifically. So I took this piece of pipe, and when I first rolled one of these over, it was a little too tight. I didn't like the radius, it was a little too tight. I wanted it a little bigger. So I took something as simple as green masking tape and wrapped it around here as many times as I could until I got the radius on there that I liked, to where when I bent this over this, it was this kind of the basic, or really close to the shape that I needed. And what that also does with the tape is it keeps from scratching the surface off. I was just doing this over the steel pipe. Any movement in your hand and that kind of thing would end up scratching the inside of this. So the tape helps with that. So then what I do is I have two pairs of these duckbill vice grips. So I don't use these a whole lot, but when I do, it's usually for something like this, when you just need to hold something all the way across the surface, get that extra gripping power right on an edge, that sort of thing. So what I do is I wrap the edge of these in masking tape as well, and that also protects the surface. So there's no scratching after the fact because the tape does a good job at protecting the surface. So what I do is, because I'm basically from the mounting hole, from about an 1/8 inch or so from the mounting hole until about an 1/8 inch or so from the mounting hole on the other side, that's where my radius is. The rest of it is, or technically could be left flat. So I take my duckbill vice grips and I clamp this on right up to about the hole, and I try to make sure it's square with my part. And I do the same thing on the other side. And again, this may seem like the most basic thing, but sometimes jobs like this can take a while to figure out how to do something, because a lot of times we want to immediately try to put something in a machine to bend it, that sort of thing, when ultimately a lot of times it doesn't need it. So instead of just pushing down from the middle, lining up the middle of this part and pushing down on both sides, I like to start from one end and kind of push around the other end, kind of roll the part around. And this is kind of a easier way of having a radius break a little bit, in the sense of I'm trying to roll this part around the piece of tubing and achieve the shape I want. So once I get there, start just kind of pulling it down and around until I get a nice radius on there. Now it's obviously too big because I can't force it all the way around with the vice grips because they do get in the way. But at that point, I do kind of take the vice grips and I'll squeeze this together a little bit just to tighten it up. And then the last thing I do, once this is on here, I'll take a rubber mallet and just tap the edge of this to kind of create a little more radius. So when you look at this part here, there's a little more crown here on the top edge. It's a little flatter here. So what I'm trying to do is put a little more crown through this area of the bend on both sides, and that will complete my shape. So I'll slide this over. And I use the rubber mallet or a dead blow mallet or whatever because I'm not trying to shape the metal at all in the sense of stretching or anything like that. And if you use a metal hammer, you'll end up marring the surface, damaging it. So I use the rubber hammer or a dead blow in order to achieve that. So I've got a little more radius here, so I'm gonna take the vice grip and flip it over to this side. Do the same thing. And now I've got that guard radius over, and being that all these are hand done, they're a little different, but what I like to do is when I get the first one that I know fits, I'll compare them. If I'm a little bit off, then I can just hand form these a little bit, kind of squeeze them where I need it, and there we are. So seems like a pretty simple task, and like I said, sometimes the first thing you want to do is go throw a piece like this in a machine of some type, a bender, in order to achieve a shape like this. But hopefully this gives you an idea of maybe how to shape something like this when your part's already cut and made, and you need to try to bend it without damaging the part or marring it up or anything. So the next step of these that gets done is this decal, or metal tag I should say, gets riveted on, and then it gets wrapped around here, which this gets bent with heat to warm it up, and then just rolls around pretty nice and easily. So that'll get rolled on there, and then this is a finished part. So because of the no marring work, using tape to protect it and a soft hammer, this is shaped without having to be able to clean it up or do anything like that after the fact. So thanks for watching this week's trick tip, and we'll see you in the next one.